Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We'll wait for 2 to 3 minutes. I'm waiting for the requisite number. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We have to now cover Mughal India. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, tomorrow World History evening. It's me. Good afternoon. Anybody has any issue they can discuss whilst everybody is joining in? We'll wait about 1 more minute. Deep revision, revision, and revision. That's the only way. The more you will revise, the more confidence you will get. Well, see, there are multiple batches. Yes. Lodi almost same as before, but no Subhash, inverted lotus, Chhatri, a cave, all of that is part of the additions which happened. Inverted lotus, Chhatri, a cave, balcony, double dome. I'll wait 1 more minute because still people joining in. Yes, Subhash. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, so we discussed in Mughal how Babur added what is called Char Bagh and how Humayun did not have the political stability to do anything. Rather, it was after his death that the Humayun's tomb was made. Now, just to add to this thing and just to revise with you, Truash, two dome, limestone mortar, sloping wall, intricate decoration, and Indo-Islamic culture, something which already was there. Double dome plus Chhatri plus a cave plus the concept of Rajasthani balcony. Rajasthani and Gujarati elements had been added quite a lot by the Lodhis, and that was a further process of interaction and, in a way, a certain amalgamation in that regard. Now, when we talk about Humayun, as I said, Humayun, because of his exile and general conflict with the Sood dynasty, Suris, did not have time. And he did make 2 very standard-looking mosques in Agra and Hisar, in Fatehabad, but have no architectural merit or are not even unique in that regard. But once he comes back, within 6 months, he's dead. So it is after his death and under the patronage of his widow, Hamida Bano Begum. Remember, Hamida Bano Begum is the wife of Humayun. Gulbadan Begum is the sister of Humayun. Just to give you basic 2 names, you will see them in the examination. Hamida Bano Begum is the wife. Gulbadan Begum is the sister of Humayun. And when Hamida Bano Begum was coming back from the Safavid Empire from Iran, she brought with her Mirak Mirza Ghias. Again, prelims related question quite a lot. Mirak Mirza Ghias as an architect who was a native of Persia, Iran. And he will be given the responsibility of now making a memorial for Humayun. And that is the Humayun's tomb in that regard. Now, when we talk about the Humayun's tomb, it is a very important specimen of how things were progressing further. And in it, you can see multiple things which were already there and are now being taken forward. First is 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole Humayun's tomb complex. And if you live in Delhi, you should go there and see it. It's one of a very beautiful structures which people don't go, but is actually equally beautiful as the Taj Mahal. You have what's called the 4-quadrant Char Bagh. So the Char Bagh concept which Babur introduced was taken as a base for this whole concept itself. Further, they introduce a very important concept which is high platforms. High platforms, which is also called an arcaded platform. And now this will become a staple in Mughal architecture to have extremely high platforms in that regard. You can see how the Chhatri and the cave has got integrated. There's a very good use of red sandstone along with yellow sandstone to contrast. You have the marble dome, which you already see. But what is iconic is this is a double dome. This is a double dome. But what makes the whole structure very unique is the blend of Persian plus Indian plus Islamic designs. Can anybody tell me what this is? What this is? It's not a lotus. This is not a lotus. What are these? Star. This is the Star of David. Star of David is of which religion? Which religion? It's called the Star of David. Star of David is Jews, Judaism. So now you see, in this image which I'm showing you, there is a blend of Persian. This is a Persian influence. This is a Persian influence. You will see 3 elements coming together. You see, you have Star of David, Star of David. Then you have a mixture, Star of David plus a lotus inside it. This is David star plus lotus. And you already have the caves and you have the chhatris, the marble dome and arches, but beam and lintel also, and a very beautiful use of red plus yellow sandstone. So in a way, this building, Charbagh, double dome, chhatri, caves, sandstone, platform. And if that was not enough, this building is also an octagonal building, wherein it has basically 8 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's an octagon, 8 sides. And this type of architecture was very, very unique at this point of time. But in itself, it is a blend of Persian interpretation of Indo-Islamic culture. That is why Humayun's tomb is considered very, very important. It is in itself a specimen of a very unique amalgamation of even Iranian culture. So when we talk about this whole structure, the Persian craftsmanship now brought in new techniques itself. And the tomb thus represents a representation and an example of a Persian concept of Indian design. It's the earliest specimen of a garden enclosure, which is Charbagh, and it is also on an arcaded platform. Arcaded means has pillars. It is an octagon with a double dome, and this double dome has a very distinct feature that in order to make sure that you could see it, it has a very long neck also. You can see in this image, it has a very long neck. It was made in such a way that it could be seen from any point, and further, the use of the Star of David makes it even more interesting in that regard. So nobody is going to ask you to analyze the Humayun's tomb in that sense. But Humayun's tomb is like the culmination of whatever was there till this point. But now you can see that Indian culture was open to even taking Iranian ideas. And the fact that you have the Star of David generally, along with the Star of David and Lotus, tells you that there is a openness to how we interpret this period. So very simply, when we talk about Humayun's tomb, it's a one step further from Lodhi's. Anybody has any issue till this point? Why is the Humayun's tomb important? Now we are moving to Akbar. Akbar and Shah Jahan are the two greatest of builders when it comes to Mughals. Shah Jahan the greatest in that regard. Akbar equally important. Akbar has two major contributions, or his two phases are very simply. One is called the Agra Fort, Lahore Fort, and the Allahabad Fort, which is Prayagraj Fort. This is called his phase 1. And then his most revered, his pet project, phase 2, Fatehpur Sikri. To celebrate the conquest over Gujarat, he built Fatehpur Sikri. Now, generally, this I'm giving you an overview. Akbar was the one who brought back tribeted structures. Tribeted structures are very common during which period? During which period? Tribeted structure means pillar and flat roof. Which period? Tribeted structures were very common in temple architecture. So in a way, he brings in temple architecture influence. He also was the one who used red sandstone based buildings. He loved red sandstone quite a lot. In the Mughal dynasty, sandstone is still Jahangir. Jahangir is transition between sandstone and marble. Marble is all Shah Jahan, and sandstone is all what we call as Akbar. Thereafter, he is a person who extensively used chhatri, balcony, and caves. More than that, he changed the designs of old Muslim or Islamic structures. He is also credited to develop what's called the four-centered arch. I will tell you what it is. It's a very specific type of arch, which is basically arches are like this. But his arches used to have depth, and that is called a four-centered arch. Basically, if you take a dome and you cut it in half, you get two arches, which is that his arches used to have depth. If I show it from the side, his arches used to look like this. You could go inside from this point. So his arches were very architecturally sound in that sense, four-centered arch. And last but not the least, Akbar took inspiration from Rajasthani, Gujarati designs quite a lot, which obviously is reflected also because of his Rajput policy. The more he got closer to the Rajputs, Man Singh, Bhagwan Das, the more he got interested in their designs. So when I divide Akbar, Akbar's basic contribution, and this is what you write in the examination, this is to learn, very important. I've given you two types of things in the PPT. I've given you all the points which you can write in the examination, and then I'll demonstrate it to you through the PPT also, and the images also. So his basic features would be red sandstone, tribeted structures, arches for decorative purposes, decoration with boldly carved patterns, introduce the four-centered arch, obsessed by the chhatri. He just loved his chhatris. This is called a four-centered arch. This is a four-centered arch used for the first time properly in what is called the Buland Darwaza. Buland Darwaza, you can see the arch has depth. Can you make that out? How there is a roof to the arch itself. Arches should not have depth, but his arches used to have it. So they were basically 4-centered because the weight was distributed on 4 centers. You don't need to do that much, but his arches basically from the side profile used to look like this. It had in itself very interesting architectural design in that sense. His arches were very unique. That is. Are we clear with regards to these points till this point? This is what you write in the examination. Anybody an issue? No? What does first figure? This is the scientific way. It is telling you where are the 4 centers of distribution of weight. Does not matter. Now, when we divide Akbar's buildings, we divide into 2 groups. One, Agra, Allahabad, Lahore. Other one is the new capital, Fatehpur Sikri. He didn't use it too much because Fatehpur Sikri was very dry, too far away from the Yamuna. And though he made this whole city, he stayed at Agra only. But he did develop a lot of different buildings there. And in the first phase, his buildings generally projected power. And Akbar had this thing that is to project power quite a lot. Now, in the Agra fort, which is going to be our example, there are multiple structures. Moti Masjid, Diwane Khas, Sheesh Mahal, and Jahangiri Mahal. However, there's a problem. The problem is that if you've ever been to Agra fort, how many of you have been to Agra fort? If you've been to Agra fort? One person has said one. Yes, no. Not a lot. If you go to Agra fort, you will realize that all these are marble buildings, which means that they were not constructed by Akbar. The only construction which was or survives as Akbar's specimen is Jahangiri Mahal. All of this was remodeled by Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan did not like the Agra fort too much, but he then upgraded all the different what we call as buildings to marble. So therefore, within the Agra fort, there's only one building which is representative of Akbar's design. Now let's try to decode what we've done till this point. Anybody has any issue in what I've said till this point? Because now I'm going to demonstrate to you all the points. I've discussed these points with you. Anybody has any issue in these points? This is what you write as Akbar's contribution to the Indo-Islamic architecture. I want everybody's yes. If they understand, then we go into a small section in which we see how he actually applied these things. Now I'm giving you a visual reference for the same. Okay. Now, if you look at Agra fort, this is Agra fort. What is this? So at the beginning itself, he had this concept that he will keep the inverted lotus at the entrance. This was a standard thing which was developed by this point of time. His buildings mostly project power and his grandeur. So it's about strength. And interestingly, this is actually not the real gate of Agra fort. This is the Delhi gate as it is called. The real Delhi gate is behind it. And if you look at the Agra fort Delhi gate, you will see how Akbar was actually applying all the Lodi knowledge again. See, what is this? This is Rajasthani balcony. This is his favorite chhatri. Thereafter, he is also using octagonal design. And you see here, arches are for decorative purpose. Which is that they have no use other than for design. So he's now using arches just as design itself. But if I take you to Jahangiri Mahal, which is still there, it still survives as a building. Where have you seen this type of design? Have we ever seen this type of design previously? Yes, very good. This is called tribeted temple design. Beam bracket has been used. You see beam bracket. But if you look at this building a little bit more closer, then you will actually realize how much he was actually influenced by Rajasthani Gujarati designs. This. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 chhatri, kiosk, balcony, arch, lotus, inverted lotus. Now tell me one thing. If I don't tell you that this has been made by Akbar, can you make out that it is an Indo-Islamic building or an Islamic building? If I don't tell you that this is a Mughal design, can you actually make out that it is a Islamic, Turkish or Central Asian design in that regard? No, it looks more like a Rajasthani Gujarati building than actually like a what we call as Islamic Central Asian design. This is why these structures are more Indian than we actually think about and are much more representative of the architecture at this point of time than actually we know or are told about. See, I'll give you a very simple example. If I go to Fatehpur Sikri, now very simply, this is a building. What does it seem as? If you look at this structure, what is this? Guess what building it is, for example. No, you need to tell me, is it like a palace? What is it? It looks like a gate, some fort. Sure, very good. It's a fort, perfect. Okay. This is actually Jami Masjid courtyard. Does this look like a masjid to you? This is where Akbar started to change these designs. This is the inside of that mosque. This is the mosque. Chhatri represents Rajasthani Gujarati. Proper Hindu architecture. Lotus represents Hindu motif. Arabesque includes Hindu motif. This is an Islamic building, a mosque, masjid. He said, I don't care if it looks like a masjid or not, because masjid need to have minars. But he said, I don't like minars. He said to the architect, make a masjid and line से छतरी लगा दो. छतरी 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 जहां देखो वहां छतरी दिखनी चाहिए. Everywhere छतरी. Wherever I look, there should be a छतरी. Now, if you were an ulema, if you were an Maulvi or somebody who is linked to Orthodox Islam, would you be thrilled to see what Akbar was doing? No, obviously not. Now, Akbar didn't care. His thing was, I don't care if it looks like a mosque or not. Very simply, he started to change the designs itself. What am I trying to argue here? I've already told you Akbar's contribution. What I'm trying to argue here is that in certain popular imagination, in certain media, WhatsApp University, whatever you want to call it, we tend to other Mughal architecture, Mughal institutions, or Mughal buildings itself. But if I don't tell you that this is a masjid, does it look like a masjid? It doesn't. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. Don't fall into the trap of the British and understand that this building is more Indian than any other mosque you will find across the world itself. Because they did not care about the Orthodox faction. They did not care about the Orthodox faction itself. And it doesn't stop here. The most iconic building which was installed in Fatehpur Sikri is called Buland Darwaza. Very huge darwaza, big door. It was made in the direction of Gujarat. It was to celebrate Gujarat, victory of Gujarat. He said miniature chhatris I also want. Caves, chhatris, inverted lotus, red sandstone, Kufi, arabesque, a cave. If you look from the inside, again, chhatri, 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 chhatri. And if not enough, chhatris and chhatris. Akbar loved his Rajasthani design. Akbar loved Rajasthani Gujarati design. And that is reflected all across Fatehpur Sikri. His designs were so unique, made in 1596 itself. Buland Darwaza does not even look like a building which was made as part of a Mughal building itself. The whole Fatehpur Sikri, be it Diwan-e-Aam, Diwan-e-Khas, be it the prayer hall, be it anything, it all represented a certain influence which made it Indo-Islamic. If I go a step further, just to show it to you, this is Salim Chisti's what we call as mausoleum or dargah. This is Salim Chisti's dargah. Now, in Salim Chisti's dargah, this was originally in red sandstone. Then Shah Jahan came and said that make it in marble. It should bling inside and make it in marble. So he later installed this marble above the red sandstone itself. What I want to show you is two things. First, now see the level of marble work which is happening. This is marble carving. But more importantly, if you look a little bit closely, this is Rajasthani jali work, which I showed you in Alai Darwaza. Now literally actually is jali work, in which they had become so good in carving that they could carve the whole marble in such a way that without breaking it, they could make it translucent. Salim Chisti, though, had nothing to do with the Chisti, had nothing to do with the Mughals, but because Akbar loved Muinuddin Chisti, he found one of his descendants and then made a dargah in the courtyard itself. This is the specimen of how they were getting influenced or a part of the larger structure and culture of India. Again, inverted lotus. The whole design is actually Rajasthani. And if I take you to Jodha Bai's palace, ignore the guide telling something wrong to these people. You have the Rajasthani balcony. This is the chhatri. This is the jali work. Where have you seen this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Look closely. It's the Humayun's tomb, Star of David plus lotus design. So again, they picked up something from the Persian design. And then comes the most unique building of all. And this is called Panch Mahal. It's called Panch Mahal. Now, Panch Mahal is Akbar basically showing off. He got bored of making standard things. So he said, I want a unique building. It's a 5-story building topped by his favorite chhatri. But what is more unique about this building is he said that on all levels, the pillars should be dissimilar. Meaning the pillar on this is not similar to this, is not similar to this, is not similar to this. All the pillars on these 5 levels are of different design itself. This is just to give you a picture of how good they had become in red sandstone, in marble, and generally how they were basically developing architecture at this point of time. So a very simple point is that Akbar, in a way, red, yellow, whatever sandstone it may be, he made that a proper, mature design, proper technique, and he also made sure that Indian elements were more. So in the larger story, his contribution is mostly 4-centered arch. But why am I showing you these buildings? Because these buildings tend to represent what Akbar was. Can I successfully say, or would it be right to say, that Akbar's religious and Rajput policy was represented in his buildings also? So in a way, architecture becomes a gateway into the life of rulers and their orientations. In the end, when I reach Aurangzeb, I'll give you a whole table. But are you getting the point of showing you these images? And I hope you are, and everything I said is written in the PPT also. You can see there are certain points which are given. Is this making sense? Is this making sense? As it says, palace massive in character, two-storied Multan, and it says here, Panch Mahal, small kiosk, dissimilar design, Diwane Khas. Before I move to Jahangir, what I want to do is I want to consolidate. We started at Delhi Sultanate. We reached Lodhis. We reached Babar. And now we've reached Akbar. Anybody has any issue? Is this making sense? Are you sitting there cluelessly thinking what is happening? Is there something you want to say, something you want to add? Is this something new to you, or you have learned something new? Because this is not something which is represented or told in books in the right way. My task is through images at least show you that how what we call as Mughal buildings are basically not Mughal buildings, but are actually Indo-Islamic, indigenously developed Rajasthani Gujarati buildings. So can I move to Jahangir if everybody is comfortable and everybody is following me? Come on. Domed kiosk is the exact word of Chhatri. Chhatri is called domed kiosk. Anything else? Anybody? Come on. Yes, no, have to say something. Yes, okay. Now, when we talk about Jahangir, now Jahangir is a little bit of a paintings guy, as we will see by the time we come to 4 or 5 o'clock, we will see. Jahangir is more of a paintings guy. And how doesn't, Grishma, you've written how doesn't, nothing else forward, tell me. So he is known for paintings. But Jahangir is the transition between sandstone and marble. What do I mean by that? Jahangir constructed Akbar's tomb at Sikandra. And Akbar's tomb represents a transition. Represents a transition. How is domed differentiated from Chhatri? Same thing. Domed kiosk means Chhatri. That's it. There's no difference. How Muslims are interested in Rajasthan artwork. Dome, Chhatri, same thing. That's the Grishma, that question itself, can anybody answer how Muslims are interested in Rajasthani artwork? Question would be why would Muslims be interested, but how? The question has an undertone which is not good for the examination. But you are in a way differentiating. Akbar, yes, is a Muslim ruler, but he has very, very close ties with Rajputs. Grishma, you were with me in ancient medieval. In medieval, were you with me in medieval? And see, it's not that it's only Akbar. Lodhis had no connections to Rajputs. Delhi Sultans had no connections to the Rajputs or that ways. This question represents an innocence, an unawareness that way. That how can a Muslim ruler have interest in Rajasthani artwork? I can change this question into how can Harisena, who's a Brahmin, make the Ajanta fort or Ajanta caves? Grishma, how will you answer this question? That how is that Shungas, who are Brahmins, were the most ardent or the most active makers of stupas, which are Buddhists? And how is that Harisena, who's a Vakataka Brahmin, is developing Ajanta caves, which are Buddhist? And how is that Delhi Sultans, who are Muslims, Sunni Muslims, are actually taking Hindu motives? How is that Akbar, who's a Muslim ruler, if you want to call him like that, who's a Muslim ruler, has interest in Rajasthani design? The answer to all these questions is the same. The answer to all these questions is the same. Exactly the same. Brahmins giving grants to Buddhists, Cholas giving grants to Buddhists and Jains, Akbar giving grants to Rajputs, Delhi Sultan having Rajput influence, Lodhis having Rajput influence. It's not specific to Akbar. You all are giving me answers specific to Akbar, but I'm talking about something much bigger here, much more fundamental. The question is not wrong, but the question has a certain undertone which marks a certain type of understanding. The answer is tolerance. It's about somehow in our 2023 mind, if one community does for the other, one religion does for the other, or if there is cultural interaction in positive way, we find it weird. This is what is there. I think there's a certain type of feeling in your heart that how aisa kaise ho sakta hai? That Akbar is interested in Rajput designs. How is that a Muslim ruler is taking a certain type of Rajasthani design? This is your 2023 consciousness, which comes out of, I'll say, misinformation, misrepresentation. But I'll blame not you, but the British, and somehow how we have not come out of that fold of discussing underquote Hindu and Muslim. So I'm trying to answer your question with a much bigger question, and I hope you're understanding that question. Are you getting my point? You gave me a question. I asked you a bigger question. If you understand that question and you have an answer for it, then we can move on. It's not everybody. This question was there in everybody's mind. But she asked me, or he asked me. The point is that it does seem weird. And unfortunately, this weirdness should not come at the first place itself, but it does. That's the unfortunate story of Indian culture, of Indian history, and of India generally. That we tend to take politics in a very different light nowadays. Divide and rule, British taught us, and we still remember it for sure. Can we talk about Jahangir? We digressed to this topic, but relevant question that was. Can I come back to Jahangir? You want to add to it? If you want to talk about it, sure. You want to? I'll make it public if you want to add to this. Okay. Now, so as I was saying, Jahangir is a transition between sandstone and marble. Sikandra's tomb of Akbar is representation of that. And if I will show you that, this is Sikandra tomb. He also built the Moti Masjid, but you can see how this part is Akbar, and this part is marble, and minars are coming back. This is a minar. More than that, the chhatri still does not evade him, and you can see that a new design is emerging. This is arabesque, but arabesque is now going to evolve and become much bigger. During Jahangir's period, while the transition was very evident, it was Noor Jahan who actually introduced a new decorative design, which was done on her father's tomb. If you ever enter Agra from the Delhi side, you cross a tomb on your right. Mirza Ghias Beg is the father of Noor Jahan, but the tomb is called Itmaduddaulah tomb. Itmaduddaulah is nothing but the title which Noor Jahan's father took. And for the first time in the Itmaduddaulah tomb, or Imaduddaulah tomb, whatever you want to call it, we see the use of Pitre Duri or Pitre Dura, whatever you want to call it. Pitre Duri is a very innovative inlaying marble decorative design and pattern. What do I mean by that? That very simply, what they do is that now when they make a marble panel, they now have the ability to carve out sections of it like this, and then they are able to inlay precious stones into it. So lapis lazuli, different types of carnelian, different types of stones are inlaid into marble. So marble inlaying technique, which was for the first time used at Itmaduddaulah tomb, is called Pitre Duri. Pitre Duri is other than arabesque is different and Pitre Duri is different. But Pitre Duri is basically that for example, I make a design like this. In the marble itself, everything around me is marble. This is marble. And now I take a red stone and then inlay it into it. And then take a blue stone and inlay it into it. This is called Pitre Duri. That you carve marble in such a way that you create small pockets in which you can put it or put small stones into it. Very difficult task. Shows the maturity of our masons and of our what we call as the mistries and the labor, but they are able to do it for sure. So Jahangir's most important contribution as a builder was his wife's, which is Pitre Duri. Now, very simply, Babar is Charbagh. Humayun is basically nothing. Akbar is Persian design. Humayun's tomb, chhatri, balcony, change in design, no minars, and you have four-centered arch, and then you have Jahangir, who is transition from sandstone to marble plus Pitre Dura. Anybody has any issue in this story? Because I'll give you a break here. I can see the fatigue because you're becoming more and more silent as I go on. Anybody has any issue here? No? Are you able to understand the progression? You're able to understand the progression? How each of them is adding something to what the Lodhis gave them and they're doing something. Yes? Okay, perfect. Take a 10-minute break. Wash your face. Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb, modern architecture. Then irrespective of where we are, I'll give you a break and we'll go to paintings. We're coming to the last leg of architecture. But yes, Pitre Duri introduced by Jahangir's wife, so it is Jahangir's period. So that is Jahangir's period. So we come back at, sir, what is Pitre Duri? Very good. This is Pitre Duri. Pitre Duri is marble inlaying technique and design. You take marble, take a small chisel, carve out spaces, they make a mold like this, and then you put precious stones into it. Marble inlaying technique. Sangam, make clear. What is Pitre Duri? Sangam, yes or no? You're the one who sent me the. Say yes or no. I need to get your says. Yes. Okay. She says yes. Okay. So we come back at 3:22, and we will finish. It will take what maximum an hour, and we'll be done by 4:30. We'll be reaching, or 4ish. We'll be reaching the period of last Aurangzeb and all, and we'll finish paintings. We will start just before the break itself. So Pitre Duri design are rough or smooth like marble. Want to know? How do I tell it to you? See, literally, I take a marble, then I take a hammer, and then I take a chisel, Chaini Hathoda as it is called. Then what I do is that I take off the upper layer of marble this much, and it does not go see-through, but starts to develop a groove. I will make grooves. It will maybe taking me 10, 15, 20 days. And then once I have a groove, I will take a small inlay stone and put into it. This is called, it could be smooth. It does not really matter. It has to be the mortar. It has to have a glue which holds it. Get my point? Nitin, want to know design is rough or smooth? To the touch. If you will touch, it will be smooth, right? It does. From the side, you will never be able to make out that there is a design on it. It's inside, inlay. So from the side, it does not have protrusion. It's not like you're pasting on the, you don't paste on the marble. You paste in the marble. So it will be smooth, right? If you've been to Taj Mahal, when you touch the Taj Mahal marble, do you feel rough? It is smooth. So smoothness is because it's not on the marble, it is in the marble. Rangoli in marble is also wrong. Rangoli is done on the floor. Do you take a chisel and hammer and make a groove in the floor in which you make a rangoli? If you want to call it rangoli in marble, It's not that it is on the marble, it is inside the marble. From the side, it will not seem that there's anything. From the front, it will have a design. Make sense? Nitin Prabhu, can we take a break? Okay. So, 3:25. See you. Shahjahan. Welcome back. Can we start again? Okay. So now we reach Shahjahan. And when we talk about Shahjahan, Shahjahan is the highest point, is the zenith of Mughal architecture. In a way that he is a culmination of everything which happened before him, but also marble, his main contributions, marble buildings. He also is the one who shifted the capital from Agra to Delhi. With that, he also developed Red Fort, or what we call as Shahjahanabad, and Jama Masjid. He's also the one who made the Taj Mahal. But he is also the one who introduced what is called the nine-cusped arch. Over and above that, Shahjahan, in a way, is the culmination of all other Mughal emperors. So, when we talk about Shahjahan, not unlike his father, very big prolific builder, made palaces, the Lal Killa, the Red Fort, mosque, and the Taj Mahal itself. Now, when we talk about his contributions, this is called a nine-cusped arch. Called a nine-cusped arch. Cusp means this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cusps. Very simply, what he's doing is that if I go to this arch dominated with foliated curves, marble inlay became very common. Dome will become bulbous dome, which I'm coming to. Marble inlaying pattern is now going to be the standard decorative technique. And unlike his Jahangir's later period, we started with Piccadilly, and semi-precious stones were inlaid into it. So if I have to add it to his list, I'll also add bulbous dome. Okay. Now, very simply, what is a cusp arch? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is called a 9-cusped arch. And he also is the one who developed what is called the bulbous dome. What do you mean by bulbous dome? Where the stiff neck of the dome is much stiffer and the dome is like a bulb. This is called a bulbous dome, which is mostly also a double dome. It's mostly also a double dome. These two are his specific contributions. Other than that, as I said, are other features. These two are his most important features. Whenever you see this cusped arch, it has to be Shah Jahan in that regard. So are we clear with regards to basic contributions of Shah Jahan? Because then I want to discuss his buildings. These 2 points clear? Yes, no, I have to say something. Yes? Yes, okay. Now, let's talk about his buildings. First is the Red Fort. When we talk about the Red Fort, the Yamuna, now when Delhi was flooded this time, the Yamuna reached till the Red Fort back gate. That is where actually the Yamuna used to flow previously. And unfortunately, when the revolt of 1857 happened, the British destroyed all buildings inside it except for the last 4. Diwan-e-Am, Diwan-e Khas, Rang Mahal and Moti Masjid are the 4 buildings which are there. Other than that, everything. There were multiple buildings which were there. And if you will go to Red Fort, you will see that inside there is very ugly buildings, barracks made on all sides. They were actually made by the British. So the Red Fort in itself is actually a very interesting culmination of a lot of things. You can already see that the Chhatri is already there. The size of the egg caves have been increased. You have the inverted lotus also there. If I go a little bit more closer to it, you will also realize that this was basically a balcony. Jalis are there. And if you go inside, the 4-centered arch is actually used to make the roof of, this is called Meena Bazaar. Meena Bazaar is the only structure which survives in the front of a Red Fort. Everything else is destroyed. More than that, this is where the Prime Minister gives his speech from. Yes or no? Yes. This structure is where the Prime Minister gives his speech from. Yes or no? Yes. This is called the Lahori Gate, though the spelling should be Lahori Gate. Actually, this is a later addition for the purpose of speech. The real gate is this one. The Lahore Gate actually is this gate. This rampart which you see here is a later addition. So the Red Fort, in a way, has only four basic buildings there: the Diwan-e-Am, the Diwan-e Khas, Rang Mahal extension, and the Moti Masjid. Over and above that, it also has Diwan-e-Am, in which the peacock throne is there. Can anybody tell me what this is? Come on. Have you seen something like this previously? Very good at this. Yes, Samishta. Where's Samita? Very good. This is the Bengali roof. Sloping roof. Where have you seen this previously? Pala Sena. This is the Pala roof. So now you see Shah Jahan has now brought in Bengali influence also. And his iconic 9-cusped arch is everywhere. Diwan-e-Am is all red sandstone, while Diwan-e Khas is marble. Don't need to tell you what this is. Chhatri's 9-cusped arch. This is also a new addition, which is a lotus on the top of the 9-cusped arch itself. And the Moti Masjid, which is there in the Agra fort, which was made by Shah Jahan later, is again a totally new design. Because again, minars are not there, only Chhatris are there. Bulbous domes are used, and over and above that, arcaded hall with 9-cusped arch plus black and what we call as white marble. This is again something very, very unique about Shah Jahan, that he followed what Akbar followed vis-a-vis what we call as mosque designs. They were very, very open to not care about how the ulema or the orthodox faction would talk about it or think about it, and rather for them aesthetic quality and aesthetics mattered more in that sense. So the Moti Masjid, be it Agra, be it in even the Delhi sector, they have very new designs which are uncommon across the world in that regard. Further, the culmination of whatever we know as Mughal architecture is actually in the Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal is a wonder of the world because of the fact that it has, from the point Indo-Islamic architecture starts, all designs. First, it has Charbagh, and Charbagh is replicated in multiple ways. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have Charbagh. Thereafter, if you go a little bit closer to the Taj Mahal, you will realize caves, then octagonal design, thereafter bulbous dome, double dome, inverted lotus, thereafter raised platform. Can you visit Taj Mahal? Yes, you can go and see Taj Mahal. Why not? Raised platform, but he has his minars back. If you go even more closer to the Taj Mahal, you will realize Pitte Dura, arabesque. How do we come to know that it is bulbous dome or dome is hollow? If I go inside and I see that at 10 meters the ceiling is there, and when I go out and I see the height of the building which is 20 meters, then I know that very simply there is a double dome. And double domes cannot ever be solid because the second dome will not take the weight itself. So the first dome was made and then the second dome was made. That is the standard thing, architectural design concept itself. So you have arabesque also, Pitte Dura also. You have four centered arch. You wanted to see an cave closely. This is an cave. And one very favorite thing of Akbar, Chhatri. And one very interesting thing, very interesting thing, that the minar also has an optical illusion. The minar also has an cave. Sir, cave is this small device which was used by the Lodhis, Rajasthani Gujarati. There's also a very interesting thing wherein there's an optical illusion. If you go to the main gate of the Taj Mahal, Shah Jahan made it in such a way that there are four minars. But if you stand at the entrance from a certain distance, only two minars will show. So if I stand from, this is the main gate of Taj Mahal, and the Taj Mahal is here. So from any side, from a specific distance, you only see the two minars and you see the Taj Mahal itself. This is called an optical illusion, wherein he made the four minars in such a way that they were the exact centimeter till millimeter exactly the same. So what happens is that one minar actually goes behind the other and then you only see one of them. This was the precision of the Taj Mahal, that the minars superimpose themselves in such a way that you cannot actually make out that there are four, but actually two. This is why Taj Mahal is Taj Mahal. The design is so unique and so precise that from the four-centered arch to the way it was made, it is truly the culmination of Indo-Islamic culture. And if this seems as a fluke, if this seems as a joke, Aurangzeb did try to replicate two of the buildings of his father. One, the Jama Masjid, which he was able to make a little bit, but this is called Bibi Ka Maqbara. This is the tomb of, he made it for Mumtaz Mahal, he made it for his wife. Aurangzeb's wife, Rabia ur Duran, has in Aurangabad her tomb, Bibi Ka Maqbara, and this is called the cheap copy of Taj Mahal. Firstly, he was not able to get the Makran or the Markan marble which Shah Jahan got. Very beautiful, though he bankrupted the whole dynasty in that regard. He got the cheaper marble which was available, so it looks like they have put in chuna on it. Very simply, looks like very simply a very cheap copy, like somebody's put white paint on it. This marble is not good. Second, the problem with this basic thing is that it is actually geometrically wrong. It's a little bit crooked. Basically, this is forward, this is backwards. So rather than having the minars in alignment, it is something like this. It's a little bit off. And if you know, there's one more building in Delhi which is called Safdarjung Tomb. Safdarjung Tomb is also a cheap copy of the Taj Mahal. Two different rulers tried to copy the Taj Mahal, but Taj Mahal was not that easy to replicate. Further, the simple point of the matter is, Taj Mahal for us, it may be the wonder of the world, is like a revision for everything what we've seen in the past 2 to 3 hours. It all culminates in this building in that regard. So the simple point of the matter is, Aurangzeb obviously did not have the same passion as his father, but he did try to make the Badshahi Mosque at Lahore, which is close to the Jama Masjid at Delhi, and the Moti Masjid at Lal Killa in Delhi itself, which is a very ordinary looking building. But for him, his Bibi Ka Maqbara was his attempt to go for a building like for example, the Taj Mahal. Did not have the money, did not have the expertise or the architects to do it, and therefore with this we finish Mughal architecture. I have for your basic reference given you these two out of a very old book. Do not circulate it. This is a summary of all the arches and the domes which have always been in India or across the world itself to give you a comparative perspective. All arches and all domes. Keep it to yourself just for basic revision. If all of this makes sense, I would like to make a table. I would like to consolidate and then move to modern architecture. Can we do that? It's a long section, has a lot of things, but I've tried to bring it together. The book is Percy Brown, Indian Architecture. You will not find it because it's a 1948-45 book, very old, only one library in India, which is in Delhi, IIC. You will not find it anywhere else. So there's no point asking me about the name, but the name is Percy Brown, Indian Architecture. If you're able to get it, sure, why not? Percy Brown, Indian Architecture. Okay. Now, let's consolidate. Now, please pay attention. If you have, firstly, before I do this, everybody's alive, everybody's fine. I've not asked for the past 30-35 minutes if everybody's fine or okay. No issues. Everybody's following me. The images are helping and making sense. Yes? Okay. 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 Abhinav, what you're getting is a cheap copy of it. Delhi Sultans. True arch, true dome, mortar, limestone. Thereafter, batter, marble dome, beam lintel, accurate structures, arabesque. Thereafter, Lodhis, double dome, kiosk, chhatri, domed kiosk, same thing. Rajasthani balcony, caves, and garden enclosures. Inverted lotus. Now, Thereafter, you have the Mughal rulers. In Mughal rulers, you have Babar, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. Charbagh, no real contribution. Persian design, Star of David, Mizr. Thereafter, Chhatri used increased, four-centered arch, repeated structures, sandstone, strong buildings, caves, and Rajasthani influence. Changed design. Jahangir transition from sandstone to marble, Dura. Shah Jahan, culmination of all contributions from Delhi Sultanate, Lodi to Jahangir, 9-tusked arch, bulbous dome, and marble use, new shift of capital. Aurangzeb tried to copy Taj Mahal, no real contribution. Who sides? Anybody has any issue? Anybody has any issue? Tried to copy Taj Mahal, not success. Octagonal design will be here. Another slide meaning. Delhi Sultan, Lodis, Babar, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. Anybody has any issue? Okay. So in the examination, Jali work, sure. Jali work would be more Shah Jahan. Jalis are here also. Bengali roof, you had it here. Okay. Now, before I move to modern architecture, which is a small section, there can be three types of questions. Delhi Sultan contribution, Lodi evolution of architecture, and Mughal 13th to 16th, 16th to 18th. Are you capable of writing any of these questions? Yes? So if that is the case, then the biggest section for us is over now, which is basically temple architecture and medieval architecture. Now let's come to modern. And modern, we have three: Portuguese, French, British. British is mostly divided into two. One is called Indo-Gothic, and the other one is called Indo-Saracenic. Now, we have to very simply discuss how is Indo-Saracenic different from Indo-Gothic, and what is the Portuguese and French contribution. Now, when we talk about the Portuguese influence, two words basically summarize their contribution. Patio houses. Patio houses very simply is, I'll tell you the design is open space in the front, and the other one is called Baroque style of decoration. These are two words. If you will see it in the examination, you will always mark it for Portuguese. They have multiple buildings. They were mostly religiously inspired, be the Slay Cathedral, be the Basílica de Bom Jesus, be it Castela de Aguada. All of them, these forts and these different mosques, different churches have two very simple straightforward things. This is called a patio house. Patio houses have a very distinct thing. They will have a house, but they will also have very big porch area in the front. In India, before the Portuguese, we always used to have a courtyard concept, that the open space of the house used to be in the middle, which was there in the Indus civilization, which Angan concept. But with the coming up of the Portuguese, we started to give front and back space rather than actually having the middle area, the Angam, to be there. This is called a patio house. These are called Portuguese houses, very common in the whole southern sector and very, very common in Goa in that regard. This gold decorative design is called Baroque style. Baroque style never catched up in India too much, but is very common in England, France, and in Portugal quite a lot. They will have rooms very beautifully carved out with the Baroque style of decoration. These two words are the two major contributions of the Portuguese. Anybody has any issue in these two words or these two concepts? Front and back space, patio house, and Baroque style, which is basically the golden embroidery as you see, or the golden way, or what we call as decorative designs. We do use it today, but we don't put the gold in that sense. Okay. Now, when we talk about the French, French are the ones who developed the first properly planned city in India, which is nothing but Puducherry or Pondicherry. Pondicherry, Chandranagar, both very, very important, but Pondicherry was the capital of the French in India itself. Urban planning as a concept, though industrial civilization was there in the modern era, in the colonial period, they were the ones who pioneered it. But the most important word which the French what they introduced is called Cartesian grid plan. This word, if you see in the examination, is for the French. You already know what is Cartesian grid plan. I will show it to you. You already know it. One second. If you go to, for example, Paris, there's a Notre Dame in the middle, which is nothing but the India Gate, and the whole city is in concentric circles. What do we call this? What do we call this? When the city design is in concentric circles, what do we call it? Yes, this is called the radial plan. So nothing but radial plan is called in French. In French, we call it Cartesian grid plan. Radial plan, city divided into circular pattern, and very simply, city center concept. If you will go to Pondicherry, this is the design which is followed. Very common in French cities and in European cities. And this is reflected from Puducherry to Chandranagar to Mahe, Karikal, Yanam, wherever you will go, there is this. The churches are not out of the world. They're standard Gothic plan, as I will tell you. So, Portuguese and French, patio, Baroque, Cartesian. 3 words to remember. Anybody has any issue in this? No. Okay. Now, let's talk about the British. So, between 1757 to 1911, the design which they followed is called Indo-Gothic. Indo-Gothic because Gothic architecture is nothing but the concept of Christian architecture, wherein the buildings will have Christian design. This is it's Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus or Victoria Terminus previously. And if you look at these buildings, they will have this iconic arch of what we call as the Gothic arch. You would have seen it for sure again in your life, for sure, somewhere for sure. This is called the Gothic arch. Further, there will be crucified crosses will be there. There will be cross everywhere, which is a very simple crucified or a Christian influence itself. And the creatures which are made on the design are also what we call Christian inspired imagery. You will find this across Mumbai, Colaba region, Old Mumbai as it is called. You will find it in Calcutta, the old parts which were made by the British. You will also find it in a lot of parts of Madras in that sense, because this is the way the British used to make everything initially. However, with rising nationalism, the revolt of 1857, the British chose to shift the capital in 1911 to where? They wanted to shift the capital to where? To Delhi. So in 1911, when the capital is shifted to Delhi, the British wanted to change their image. They wanted to change their image from this very European type design to now having a Indian influence in their architecture. And that is why they called Lutins and Baker, two people. Edwin Lutins and Baker, C. Baker, were actually called to develop the new city called New Delhi. And in New Delhi, they developed 3 very iconic buildings. Rashtrapati Bhavan, North Block, South Block, the Parliament, and over and above that, the Rajpath. Rajpath will not be completed by 1932. But now, if you look at the North Block, South Block, where have we seen this previously? They now pick up on Mughal designs. They try to argue that they were nothing but the new Mughalish, and they go for red and yellow sandstone. Now they move away from do not use Christian imagery, and more than that, the Chhajja, which is nothing but a rain guard, which is very common again in Rajasthani design, along with the fact that they were using the inverted lotus or the lotus design plus red and yellow sandstone. They now amalgamate everything. But the real change you can see actually in Rashtrapati Bhavan. In the Rashtrapati Bhavan, you have what is called the upturned dome. This is nothing but called the cap dome. You take a cap like this, and just turn it around. So it's called the upturned dome. But if you go a little bit more closer, you will realize that the buildings are much more neutral, have elements, which we have previously seen. This arch has now become more neutral. Chhajja is still there. Tributed structure is used. Lotus is used across a lot of different places. And the Chhatri is integrated into dome. And now you can also go into the dome. You can actually go inside the dome and look out in with regards to that. This exact dome is also used in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court uses the upturned cap dome as it is called. But the real magic of Mughal, of the grandeur of the British, was in the inside of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. What is this? What is this? It's a squinch. It's a squinch. Standard squinch, which again they picked up from Mughal architecture. But the arches show a certain type of grandeur. Marble is used as much as possible. Ignore Donald Trump here. But when you go to the Darbar Hall, the amalgamation of Victorian, which is British, and Mughal architecture comes through in a way that the Victorian design is to have what is called wall murals on the roof, but the paintings which they've chosen are Mughal paintings. And more than that, the very high ceiling is also a very, very specific thing to the British. Across Lutyens Delhi, if you go to the MPs and MLAs houses, very, very high, 20 meter, 30 meter high ceilings they have. But the British looted as much as they could, and this type of grandeur was only possible by taking it away from the Indian masses in that regard. Now, just to be very precise, Indo-Gothic is a blend of Indian, Persian, and Gothic designs. Steel is used quite a lot. Crucified ground plan, meaning if you look at a building from the top, it will look like a cross from the top. Crucified ground plan. Large windows, very, very scary imagery in that regard. But when we move to Indo-Sasanic, more simple, modern, utility-based, congested because they try to bring in a lot of different elements. But the best example of how they were now trying to go for new types of design is also the fact that they built a circular building, which is the parliament. Though we know that the parliament inspiration comes from the Chaucer Yogini temple itself, the point of the matter is they will now go back to a little bit of Mughal designs to mask their rule in India. So before I give you a break and we move to Indian painting section, which is our next major topic, let's be very clear and let's try to understand what we've done in the past 2 days. We started our journey with a very simple straightforward pillar. We went from pillar to stupa, stupa to cave, cave to temple, temple to Delhi Sultanate to Lodi to Mughal. And now I'm giving you a very simple modern. There's never been a question, but the French, Portuguese, and the British, how they express themselves in the Indian subcontinent. There can be two types of questions which can come. In the prelims examination, they can ask you statement-based questions, very straightforward questions with regards to which period does this actually lie in. But what we more expect, and I could have done it in a much quicker fashion, the way Nitin Singhani does it, which is to just give you basic points. I've tried to show you things so that there's a visual memory. My only request to you is going to be that once that you know, now that you know these concepts of Chhatri, this, that, different elements, try to take interest, watch videos. There are multiple videos. I can't show it to you because of the fact that they're what we call as copyrighted. Watch videos of the Taj Mahal, watch videos of the Humayun Tomb, watch videos of Sikandra. Try to watch videos of the what we call as Rashtrapati Bhavan, of the Supreme Court. I cannot say show you everything, but try to look for the elements which we're trying to talk about. Very simply, Indo-Sasanic design, which is the last major design we saw, which was developed by Lutens and Baker, was to mask the rule in India itself by 1900s. By the turn of the 20th century, it was clear that the British were facing a lot of heat from Indian nationalism, and they tried to say, no, we are not that Christified, no, we are not that Christian, imagery-based, assertive British. We are much more Indian. We want to have representative government, act like a fake sympathizer with Indian culture in that regard. So, main question is more probable what we expect from here. They previously asked a question of what we call as what is the importance of the imagery of bull and lion in Indian history. We'll discuss that once we'll reach the what we call as sculpture area. But generally, architecture is over. Are we clear with regards to architecture? Are we clear with regards to any type of questions which will come? And I have given you 3 to 4 basic summaries. Those are enough to write any answer. Can I successfully say that I can move to now theme 3, which is Indian paintings? This is also a very visual theme. Here also we get prelims questions, very straightforward, and we get mains questions. But here again, the Mughal part is a little bit heavy, very beautiful but very heavy. Once we're done with this, we'll move to sculpture. Can I give you a 10-minute break here, introduce Indian paintings with you, and discuss paintings ended today, and actually argue that architecture is over? I want everybody's discussion. If you never said yes, you say yes right now. I've been doing it for now close to 15 hours. 15 hours I put into do architecture. Are we clear? All clear with regards to the concept itself? Parliament is a circular building. It was made with the concept of having a more utility-based building itself. It was believed that the British brought in this concept from South Africa, but we also believe that they were also inspired by the Chaucer Yogini temple cult, which is nothing but a Shakti cult in which they also make circular temples. Avni, can I give you a break? Can we close this topic? Clear? No, different buildings inside different complexes. You don't have to do that. Okay. So we'll come back at 4:26. Half an hour, I'll go into paintings. And thereafter, we take a break, 5 to 5:30, and then we will go for paintings and start sculpture by the time we come to 8 o'clock. So at 4:26, we come back and start paintings. If you have questions, note them down. I'll be happy to answer it as soon as I come back from the break itself. Welcome back. Welcome back. So how's the final going? 18 for 6. Well, I think India has it in the bag, so we should be Asia Cup winners and champions. Let's see. Okay. Everybody's here. The number is still down. I'm giving them 1 minute to join in. Welcome back. Welcome back. Can we start again? Half an hour. Yes, no, I have to say something. This break was to give you strength. Yes. Okay. Now, when we talk about paintings, there are 3 sections which we have to cover. Our starting point, unlike in architecture, is not going to be industrial civilization, but prehistory. They're called petroglyphs or prehistoric art. Thereafter, we will move from prehistoric to cave paintings during the Mauryan and post-Mauryan period. And they are basically called murals. I'll tell you what is the difference between a mural and a fresco. And thereafter, from cave paintings, we'll discuss smaller traditions which were there in the early medieval period. And thereafter, the biggest topic which we have to cover, and from which all questions come, is Mughal paintings. 4 basic subsections. We have seen 1 mains question from this. We have seen 2 prelims questions from this, and 2 to 3 questions in prelims and 1 in mains from murals. So it's a good area to learn, very straightforward, very simple, not very difficult. And it's easier for you to understand because I have multiple images for making you understand what it actually means. Now, our starting point here is the Paleolithic period. Across the world, we start to get what we call as very rudimentary cave paintings made by the early humans as early as in the lower Paleolithic period. However, in the Indian subcontinent, we find 2 places where from the upper Paleolithic period, we find at Lakhudiyar and Bhimbetka, we start to find what we call as petroglyphs or paintings. Cave paintings, in order to understand what they actually mean and are, till today, they are the only way to know about the social life, about the cultural experience, about the day-to-day activities of the early humans, because there are no texts. It's all archaeological. But more than that, it represents a certain type of urge which is genetically put into us, which is when it comes to being bored or when we have nothing to do, we start to doodle. We start to make things. Everybody's done it. The page and time on that paper, you will start to make something random, geometrical pattern, good or bad. You could be a very good painter, you could be a very bad painter, but everybody knows how to make small things. This is genetically baked into us because early humans in their free time, there were early painters. But today, if I give you, for example, or ask you to make something, you will ask for a pen, you will ask for a paper, you will ask for a certain reference point. Even then, you may not make a very good picture. The cave paintings were made in dark, dingy, not only natural light. They were made on cave walls, which were damp, which were not very well lit. Sometimes with a brush, maybe with their fingers. They made these paintings. And all out of memory. They have no reference point. All out of memory. They saw something and they make it. So in a way, cave paintings are very difficult to make, but still are very precise. Only source of social and cultural interaction. And further, they are very nuanced and sophisticated in their representation. But in order to understand this, we need to understand certain words. One is called scale. The other one is called 3Dness, or what we call as rather depth. The third is called naturalistic images, and the other is called stylistic images. Now, for this, I would request you to take out your phones, or if you have any form of camera with you, I'll give you that 1 minute, because I want to demonstrate something to you, and you will thereafter never forget these terms. These are the terms which will be sprinkled in and around the discussion. The first thing is scale. Scale is something which is very, very easy to mess up. For example, which is bigger, the phone or me? Is it the phone or me? Me? Very good. Because this is smaller in scale than me. But if I take this camera, this phone, and take it very close to the camera, for example, I can do that very easily. I can take it closer and closer somewhere here. Mostly I can't see what it is showing. Yes, the scale is changing. You will understand this point when I'm standing with it. The scale right now is a reference point, but this is not the real scale of the camera. This is the real scale of the camera. What I mean to say is that sometimes an elephant and a man could be shown in the same scale. That this man is made like this and the elephant is made like this. But is this the right scale? No. So the first thing which you have to take care of in what we call as a painting is scale. You have to make sure that the things are in perspective. That my hand is my hand, and it's not that my hand is as big as me. you will see that will be a standard thing which will happen in a lot of paintings where the scaling will be problematic, which you can call it proportionality, whatever you want to call it. Everything should be in proportion. Sure, why not? So scale, you understand. Everybody understand scale? Okay, now the other is called 3Dness. The other is called 3D or depth. Now tell me one thing. This is my left hand, this is my right hand. Which is in the front? Left, right. Left. But how do you know it? How do you know it? Because this camera, which is sending the images to you, is actually having depth. Very simply, I am standing like this. So I am blended into the background. This is called 2Dness. This is called 2Dness. But if I stand like this, my left shoulder is in the front, right is in the back. That can only be made sense by the fact that there is 3Dness. Because you can make out in depth that this is in the front and this is in the back. The scale difference can be, the depth difference can be made out by perspective. This is a very important concept because what most of the images will lack is 3Dness, which is they will be 2D. They will be 2D. In 2D, what happens is that you will never get to know where is the reference point. So you have scale, which is proportionality, and then you have depth. To give you a very simple example, very simple example. You have your phone with you. You have any form of phone, good camera, bad camera, doesn't matter. Take a picture or take a selfie with it in a standard mode. In a standard mode, take a picture with it. Once done, you tell me. Standard mode, it would be called photo mode most probably. Take an image of it. Take your own image. Done. Now, in Vivo and I think Oppo, it's called bokeh mode or bokeh mode, I don't know. And in other phone, it's called portrait mode. Portrait mode is when the background starts to blur. If you have it, click a picture in portrait mode. Same exact selfie, but in portrait mode. Portrait, bokeh mode, whatever it may be. Do it and tell me. Done. Now, compare the images. In one image, you and the background will be blended together, meaning where your edge is, it's called edge definition, and all phones have now what's called depth sensor. Your shoulder and the background will be exactly the same. But in the bokeh mode or in the portrait mode, it will seem like you are in the front and what is in the background has been blurred, but is also in the background, meaning the image sensor has pushed you outward and the background in the blurred background. That is called depth. When your image is having the same thing as the background, for example, this exact thing, which you can see here, the edge of my blazer and the background is exactly the same. This is called no depth. However, if I make it like this, now you can make out that there is certain type of depth. Depth is 3Dness, how realistic that image is. I'll give you a very simple, straightforward example, and then we can talk about stylism and non-stylism. I'll give you a very straightforward example. For example, you look at these two images. This is Akbar, and he's in 2D mode. This is called having no depth. As it is in no depth, what is a very interesting feature is how the legs are made. Mostly the legs are made parallel to each other. That is not how you actually sit. But now you compare it with an image, for example, like this. This is having depth and 3Dness, Jahangir's images. This is the concept of depth and scale. For example, this is also having depth. Can you make out that the background, there is a tree and he's standing in the front? There is one and there's two. Can you make out there is depth here? Can you see that? This point and this point. This is in the front and this is in the back. There's a certain distance between these two. When you make very good paintings, depth is there. This is called depth. It's called depth, wherein the background seems to be in the background and you are in the front and everything is to scale. Getting my point? Is this point clear? Depth is clear. After 3Dness, depth, scale clear. Everybody come on. Yes? Okay. Now, naturalistic, everybody has to say yes. These are words which I will presume you understand. Okay. Now, the next two words are naturalism and stylism. Naturalism and stylism. What do you mean by naturalistic and stylistic? See, very simply. You have taken two selfies of yours, right? So they are in naturalistic mode. Those are your true self. The images on Aadhaar, on driving license, on government documents are mostly called naturalistic images. Your true self will always be in an Aadhaar image, wherein there is no style add. Truest imagination. What you see right now is a naturalistic image which is coming through. There is no embellishment, there is no filter. Now you take the same image and put in your filters, vivid, cool, or you go to your Instagram or you go into your Snapchat and add filters to it. That becomes a stylistic image. Meaning, if I make a person like this is a natural image. But if I start to add elements on him, this is called a naturalistic image. Very simply, I can give you a true representation, for example, of an animal like this, true representation. And I can give you stylistic images like this, wherein I'm giving headgear, I'm giving different types of what we call as equipments in the hands of the person. The word naturalistic is important because naturalistic images are the true capturing of a certain creature or a certain individual. Naturalistic can be changed into stylistic by adding elements which may be there, may not be there. So there are four words which you will always see in the paper. In your mains answer, you have to write them, and very simply you have to understand them. Scale, depth, naturalism, stylism. Are we clear with regards to all of these four words? Okay. Now, we have discussed the basic terminologies. We understand the four phases we have to cover, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we also understand where we are starting. Now, understand this point. In the upper Paleolithic period, from the caves of Lakhu Diyar, which is in Uttarakhand, Lakhu Diyar, and in what we call as Bhimbetka, which is in MP. In these caves, we find different themes, different techniques, and different representation. Now, in the examination, they can firstly simply ask you, when do we find prehistoric images? The answer to that question is Upper Paleolithic. Where do you find it for the first time? Lakhu Diyar and Bhimbetka. But now, in a mains question, they can ask you, what are the techniques which evolved between the Paleolithic period to the most prolific period? In the Mesolithic period, Mesolithic art and paintings, the most amount of paintings we find in this period. And then we find it in the Chalcolithic period. They can ask you what are the themes which are represented. They can also ask you what are the techniques which are used or are evolving. And they can ask you how different representation is done through different colors and the different ways in which they represent. But a more fundamental question is, how have the images survived? And in this, I'm missing one period. Which period is this? Which period is this? I'm missing one period. Which period I'm missing? Yes, Neolithic. Why very rare images from Neolithic? And you will tell me the answer of both these because you already know. Why were there very limited images from the Neolithic period? Very limited images out of the Neolithic period. No, it's not because pottery was known. No script, not engaged in other. It's very straightforward. They're called cave paintings. So why are we not finding cave paintings in the Neolithic period? Not related to natural conditions. Use your basic logic. It's a very straightforward basic concept. See, till the Neolithic, till the Mesolithic period, they were in what we call as caves. But now, with Neolithic comes agriculture. And with agriculture comes settling down. And with settling down comes areas where you have water or water resources for the agriculture. So do you find caves and agriculture in the same place? No. That is why Neolithic, Chalcolithic period, rare images are there, but Neolithic somehow most of the images are not there. This is the first answer. It is because there's a movement away from caves, which is mountainous terrain, towards the plains wherein caves are already very, very rare. They may be painting, but that has not survived. Now comes the second question. How have these images survived for so long? How is that we're finding these images for so late a period till now we are finding these images? They are painted with natural pigment. They're painted with hand. Some images could be close to 1 million years, could be close to 50, 60,000 years old. They are natural colors, but why? How is that the paintings have survived close to 60, 70,000 years? Again, basic science and technology understanding. It's not no sunlight. Yes, very good, Sridevi. Very good. It's not that it's away from atmosphere. It is in moisture. It is in moisture still. No human presence away from atmosphere. Sridevi has given the answer. No disturbance because they were not exposed to rain. That is not true. Because caves are damp. That is not true. The answer is chemical reaction. If I have a rock which has certain amount of iron, and I'm using a color which has another type of metal, mostly they were using, for example, iron oxide to paint on rocks. What used to happen was, over a period of time, a chemical reaction used to happen between the color and the rock. And through that, the color became, in a way, etched into the rock itself. And because it was a chemical reaction, the color is picked up by the rock and can survive for multiple years. Now you will say that how do we know that painting is not made yesterday or has been made 1 million, 2 million years ago? But because what we do is that we take a specimen of the rock and do what is called C14 carbon dating. C14 carbon dating. Do you understand what is the concept of half-life? Half-life. Carbon has a half-life in which it decays. So we understand how many cycles of half-life it has gone through, and then we will be able to ascertain the life of the rock itself. In certain cases, for example, carbon dating is used. In certain cases, for bones and all, thermoluminescence is used. In certain cases, other chemicals are used to check the life of the rock itself. These are two very basic questions which should come to your mind. That why not Neolithic and how have the images survived? This is the basics of petroglyphs. They are the technical term for them is called petroglyphs. Petroglyphs. Petroglyphs are rock paintings. You will also find one more word which is called geoglyphs. Geoglyphs are different to petroglyphs. Geoglyphs are carvings into rocks, meaning when you start to carve into rock. When you paint on rock, it is called petroglyphs. So you have petroglyphs, very rare images from the Neolithic period. Images have survived because of chemical reaction. Lakhu Diyar, Bhimbetka, Upper Paleolithic period. Anybody has any issue till this point? Because when I come back from the break, I will discuss the themes with you. I will discuss the concepts which were introduced, the techniques which were used. A very, very nascent and very fertile area for questions generally. So anybody has any issue in this area? Geoglyph. Yes, geoglyphs are there. In Ratnagiri district of India, there are proper geoglyphs. Geoglyphs, see, if there's a rock and I etch into it, meaning that I take a certain type of stone and carve into it, it becomes geoglyph. And if I have a stone and I'm painting on it, so it becomes petroglyph. There's a difference between petroglyph and geoglyph in the terminology. Glyph means image. Petro means through painting. Geo means when you carve into the rock. So geoglyph is also there, and geoglyphs are in the news also. So this is an example of a rock painting. This is the example of a rock painting. You can see here, just to give you a reference point. This is standard. We do not call Ajanta caves petroglyphs or geoglyphs because the time period is different. They are called murals. They're not called cave paintings. Petroglyphs are mostly of the prehistoric period. They were not asking you not to take Ajanta caves. You went to Ajanta caves. The staff asked you not to use mobile phone. It will destroy paintings. That is technically not true. They were not asking you to take the pictures because they did not want the circulation of Ajanta paintings. So they actually made up a story that a flash of the nobody takes a picture with flash in that regard. It was just a tactic to not allow people to take images. They have survived the test of time. What a flash will do. That's not the point. The point is they are chemical reaction. If it's a chemical reaction, and more than that, what you see in Ajanta is not a petroglyph. It's a mural. Murals are different. Murals are very, very different than petroglyphs. Mural, fresco, petroglyph. Petroglyph is a word which is always used for the prehistoric period. Please don't confuse this. That is why I told you there are 4 phases we are discussing. Petroglyph is a word which is used for prehistoric painting. These paintings are called murals. Murals are much different, very different technique, very different concept to petroglyphs itself. Yes, clear, everyone. Nitin, Avni, done. So what we'll do is we'll take a break here and we'll come back at 5:30 and very simply 41 for 8. We'll very simply, by the time I come back, most probably Sri Lanka innings will be over. We'll come back at 5:30 and we'll take the story forward. Agenda is finishing paintings and if possible move to sculpture. And next week we finish art and culture. Done? Can I see you at 5:30? Great. See you and take care.